Good afternoon, guys. It is mid-November and we have yet to have a true killing frost. We did have a frost, it's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks ago now, that killed some of the most sensitive things, but the vast majority of frost-tender plants are still alive. And it is very late in the season for us to be at this point. Normally we would have had our killing frost by around the 1st of November, and we're definitely on borrowed time right now, but I am thoroughly enjoying still getting to harvest from my garden even through November. Those of you who've been keeping up will notice that I have still not followed through on yanking out some of the stuff that I've said that I would, especially some of these dead vines over in here. And I am feeling torn about it. I am thinking, on the one hand, I would kind of like this to be a little more clear, but I'm also thinking, on the other hand, where can lazy gardening help me out here? Because this is habitat for a lot of beneficial insects over the winter, and I definitely can plant in between if I decide to do that. So, I don't know, the lazy gardener in me is telling me maybe I should see what happens if I decide not to clear the garden this year. And at the very most, I think I might chop and drop some of this like larger stuff if it's really in the way, but dragging it all to the compost pile just to drag it all back once it's composted seems like a lot of work. I thought I was going to need my jacket because it says it's only 70 degrees out here, and I was just based on yesterday expecting it to be a bit chillier. However, it's super nice out here. This is not winter weather or even fall weather. South Carolina sometimes forgets about the seasons, and we get all sorts of weird weather when it should be much colder. Right here at my feet on the path, I want to update you guys on the volunteer carrots. This one has been stepped on a lot because it is like actually right in the path. I have a few more over here that are not super directly in the path, although I don't always remember to look for them when I'm walking through here. They seem to be super healthy. They just decided this was a good place to be, so I'm going to continue to let them grow and hopefully get some really cool volunteer carrots out of it. So we can come through and look at the tomato row, even though there's not a whole lot to see over here right now. There's a few dried beans. This one I'm going to pull before it gets wet again. It has been actually raining recently and being generally kind of damp, which is really great considering the drought that we had over the summer. I'm pretty sure I'm walking through minor spider web right now. Okay, so mostly we're seeing dead things. There's a little bit of live tomato going on in here still. If I really want to, I can come through and grab the occasional tomato. They generally don't look great, but they are definitely still edible and usable if I decide to do that. I get a few green tomatoes here and there, and oh, that's a fava bean right there coming up among the weeds. I have not replanted more fava beans along here, although I think I should. And I also have been thinking about planting my garlic and my perennial onions this fall. And mostly I've been putting off the garlic because it has been warm and I don't want it to grow too fast before it gets actually cold. So I might put that off a little bit due to the weather. This basil fully dead over here. I felt like there was one more fava bean down here, but I'm not currently seeing it. This second row has a bit more to look at. Near my path carrots, I have my path lettuce, this giant patch of volunteer stuff that seeded from the lettuce plant that I had here, I think this spring. And I've already come through and harvested a whole salad from the garden, mostly consisting of this stuff. And it was delicious. There's some brassicas that I didn't pull from yet just because it hasn't been cold enough for them to be sweet. And these types of lettuce, they do get sweeter when it gets cold, but they are bred to be tastier when it's warm as well. So just been pulling from lettuces for that. And the peppers, they're still here. They're still producing. I have had more time than I would have ever expected for them to... Oh, the cat prowling over there. I've had more time than I ever expected for these to continue growing and ripen. Oh, that one's got a bad spot on it. And I'm just really happy with how all of that is going. There's more red ones back in there that you can kind of see. Let's go ahead and grab those. Oh. But while these are still here, I do have baby brassica here. There's another one right in there. And these are doing decently. They're still from the same set that I put in that raised bed that were, kind of stunted. They stayed in their little trays too long. Here's another one here. These ones are looking better than the ones from the raised bed. And I'm betting it's just because they're in the ground. There's a lot more nutrients here. I've done a lot more soil building. And I bet there's a lot more beneficial bacteria and fungi in this section of the garden as opposed to the raised beds, especially that new one that I've put them in. So that's my theory as to why these ones over here are doing a little bit better. Farther on down, we've got all the hot peppers. Again, these are still producing. I didn't think that I would get any of these Tabascos to ripen, and yet here we are with a good chance of a lot of them ripening. Definitely lucky. All the way down at the end is kind of where I've been cultivating some more lettuce and some other brassicas. We've got this rutabaga down here, which looks super healthy, considering all of its companions died early. And it definitely looks better than the rutabagas in the raised bed, which I'll show you in a bit. We've got some potatoes here. They always sprout up like right before it's going to get cold. And this year, it looks like they're actually having a little bit of time to get big, which I find to be very interesting. We also have a fair bit of dill in here. It definitely looks a little bit like carrots if you don't know what you're looking at. And a bunch of different lettuces in here. I pulled a little bit from this for my salad, but a lot of these are still kind of small to be pulling from. My third row, which is my arched trellises, has only a little bit growing in it at the moment. We've got some peas. I wish I had more of them, but the ones that did survive are looking super strong, and I've harvested like a couple of pods off of them. Nothing really notable. Throw that in the salad and, have like 3 peas in your salad. I do have these volunteer brassicas here, which I'm not entirely sure what they are, but my best guess is broccoli. And I'm just kind of letting them go because 1, volunteers stronger plants generally, and 2, I'm curious to see what they are and what reseeded itself over here. The next trellis, blue butterfly peas, are still making flowers. I come through and pull them almost every day now because even if I was to allow them to set seeds, they would not have time to fully mature because it seems like the seeds of this plant take forever to actually ripen inside their pods. I get a lot of these pods with a lot of immature seeds in them. I'm really hoping to get more. I've gotten like a couple of pods that appear to be fully mature, but it's really hard to say. And all these flowers are not just beautiful, but they also make a really lovely tea that is pH dependent. So you can make it turn from blue to pink with the addition of some lemon juice, which is a very neat party trick. And this plant has made it through the hot summer and also a lot of the colder weather we've been having, and is looking really good. It seems to be pretty tolerant to all of that. On the other side of this trellis, I have these cucumbers that are like the remnants of what I had here. They almost entirely died back, and then just these little dregs of them survived. And actually yesterday I pulled a nearly full-size cucumber off of this tiny little plant, and I put it in my salad, and it was tasty. I was very surprised to see that, and you can actually see this one over here is trying to make another cucumber. If it gets another week of this warm weather, it might do it, which is crazy. Harvesting a cucumber in November, even for here, that is very unusual. More peas along here. That I think that might be the only one actually of the actual peas. I could come through here and plant more, but I don't know. And then back past the trellis, we've got the store-bought sweet pepper plants, which have a lot of green peppers on them right now. I've pulled a few ripe ones. These plants never really did get all that big, but they've produced, a fair number of peppers, excuse me. I've also got a couple of fava beans that have come up in here that, I tried planting this whole area as fava beans, but these and the peas I tend to struggle with. I think the baby seedlings, just as they emerge, are very tasty for some of the bugs in the garden, and so only a few of them tend to survive through to adulthood. But these brassicas, back past them, these are looking incredible. I had said last week that because I have this one sick plant, I was going to treat them all with organic rev just to be safe. And surprise, surprise, I did not get around to that. And they still look pretty decent. This one actually doesn't have too much of a pest problem right now, although you can see the remnants of that in its curled up leaves. That's generally an aphid type damage, sap sucking damage. And the rest of these plants look super healthy. So I'm very happy with that. I will still try to treat them if I can. But so far they seem to be managing themselves pretty well. And that makes me feel pretty good about the soil in this area. And if we come over to the last row, which we don't normally do because there's not always a lot to see, I can show you a couple more lettuces that I have. I had seeded this whole area with lettuces, but instead when I watered it after the drought, I got a bunch of weeds instead and a couple of lettuces. This is a mustard, this is a dill, and another mustard. There's another mustard plant right there. And also interestingly, I have zinnia sprouts. These just came up of their own accord. And I'm also seeing a few onions around the garden. These must be tiny ones that I missed when I was pulling them. And now they've sat in the ground over the summer and split and are making more onion greens. And if I leave them, they will bulb up after the winter. And they won't be as big as they would be if they were separated. But I will still get two smallish onions out of here. And it's also really nice to have these pop up when I decide I need green onions for stuff, because I do have garlic chives right now, but they're just a little different than green onions, and I could come to, say, a bigger group of them like this. This one's split quite a lot, if you can tell in between all the weeds. There's a bunch of stems down here, and so I could just try and pull out one and have a full green onion to use in my cooking if I wanted. So that's a really nice side effect of forgetting a few of the onions in the garden. I also do have a couple of sweet peppers in here. This one looks ready. These plants over here have stayed small all summer. Well, that plant wasn't going to live too much longer anyway. These have stayed small all summer. This whole row is super shaded, which is why there's generally not just a ton to look at around here. Almost this entire area is just weeds. I do have a very interesting basil plant here that survived the cold, and it looks great. It's kind of small, but it looks great compared to the absolute death that all of its companions saw. And then down here, there's a little bit of death, but also, look at that. That's a Cosmo sprouting. This is where they volunteered earlier this year, and they are once again volunteering because it is nice and warm. I've still got some of my tomatoes over here, and I have yet to find a tomato in this area that has bug damage on it. They've all looked immaculate, which I find to be incredible because they're literally sitting on the ground when I harvest them. And then back here we do have, that's lemon balm and a few more onions that I forgot to harvest. And then if we come all the way to the very edge, I noticed something the other day. This is not an onion, this is an iris. Usually these come up in the spring for me, but I've got like, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them right here. And I'm actually seeing that they've split, which is great news. They've kind of been struggling in this area, but look at that. That one has split into 2 bulbs finally. That one has split into 2. I don't know if they're going to get time to flower, but I think it's very interesting that they're coming up in this time of year. I don't know what it'll do to them, if it'll be super unhealthy for them to try and come up and then not get the chance to flower. I don't know. And somebody who knows more about bulbing flowers, let me know what you think about that. And since we're standing over here by the mushrooms, I can tell you that I have not gotten any more mushrooms off of this shiitake log, even though it's been kind of damp. I don't know how much to expect from a single flush on a log like this, but what I do know is that it is not done. Like, it might be done for the season, maybe, but it is not done for its life. Now that I know that it's properly colonized, which is great, I can say for every inch in diameter of this log, I will theoretically get a year of fruiting from it, which is pretty great, pretty good investment, if I do say so myself. I have also been collecting logs from the storm, and pretty soon I will be inoculating those. I'll make another video about it, and I'll be doing shiitake and one other kind of mushroom because they're running out of shiitake when I ordered. I'll put it here for you to see. It is going to be the biggest inoculation I've ever done, and oh my goodness. She startled me. Yeah, biggest inoculation I've ever done, and I'm really excited for it, especially since this log fruited. I feel like, okay, I'm not absolutely failing at this. Kata, what you chasing up there? I didn't know you could climb trees so fast. Alright, let's take a look at the... What is this? This is the raised bed garden. We can take a second to look at my perennials here that are going to be climbing up the trellis next year, I hope. I'm really happy that these kiwi especially have had the chance to get really well established before it gets really cold. The little bit of frost seemed to not affect them too much, and I know they'll die back in the winter, but I'm just so glad that they're getting all of this chance to develop a really healthy root system so that when they do come back in the spring, they will be very well prepared. Same with my grapes. They're definitely not appreciating the weather, But these vines, which probably I should tack up like this or something, these will definitely come back next year, and I probably won't be following like a traditional grape pruning on these. I do kind of want them to be a little wild, and I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of productivity for the beauty of the foliage covering my pergola up like this. The carrot experiment is still ongoing. I think I'm actually going to move it to a sunnier location. I think that light is one of the limiting factors here. So I'm going to, probably today when I'm done with you guys, move this somewhere where it's going to get more sun, because you can see the sun in the sky over here. It is probably about 2 p.m.-ish sun, and it doesn't get any sun until it is past this brick wall right here, so it's shaded for a lot of the day. And then if you look, the sun will go down behind those trees in just a couple of hours, and then these guys will be without sun again. So I'm betting the reason some of the other carrots in the yard are doing better is just because they're getting a lot more sun. I was checking on these carrots yesterday and just looking to see what sort of size we're up to. And down here, this is like pretty decently sized, but still like a little on the small sized carrot. And so now that I know that they're about reaching size, I can say, okay, once it freezes and they get that good sweetness in them, then I can start pulling them as needed for, whatever it is that I happen to be cooking. And then this raised bed, which I reset after I pulled the sweet potatoes out, I have noticed there's been some digging in it. You can see a pile over here. I bet it's cats. I don't know if it's my cats or other cats, but it's definitely cat shaped. And there's not just a whole lot I can do about that except hope that everything else that survives fluffs up enough to deter them, because they really like just the bare soil for that. I do have a few radishes that have been coming up in here, and these guys, which were transplanted around the same time as those other ones in the garden, even a little earlier actually, they are definitely putting on new leaves, but they are staying small, and I don't know how big they're actually going to get between the fact that they are in this raised bed, which again, all of these new raised beds, this one, the blue one, and this one, got some amount of that bad soil that came through here, and I'm really hoping to dilute it as much as I can, but I can't expect the things in these raised beds to be doing as well as the stuff in the ground, at least for this year, maybe for next year as well. And speaking of the bad soil, even walking up to this, you can smell that like brassica smell, and you can see right here just how much of them are dying. Thankfully, the beets and the carrots seem to be unaffected, but if I zoom in closer here, you'll see there's actually quite a few flies around here. And after doing some looking, I think they're a cabbage specific type fly that is feeding on these, and it's almost certainly because the soil in this area is not as healthy as it could be. I'm seeing aphids on these as well as those flies. These plants are just not doing a very good job defending themselves. Carrots over here, even the foliage is more yellow than in that other raised bed or even in the ground. Thankfully the beets don't seem to be affected by the cabbage flies or the aphids. Well, there might be a little bit of aphid spillover onto these. And that's really unfortunate because they were looking really nice for a while. And part of it is soil health for sure, but I bet the temperatures haven't been helping these guys out. Look at that guy down there. Temperatures have not been helping these guys out. A lot of times these plants will live through really tough freezes that kills off a lot of their pests, but these plants are definitely sick And I was going to come through here with more organic rev, but as you heard, I did not get a chance to do that this week. And these are looking much, much worse for the wear because of it. I'm also anticipating that the roots that I get from these are going to have a few holes in them because these flies, their larvae, eat through the roots of these plants, which is probably also making them sicker. So all of this is really sad. It's a little bit of a failure. But I'm still going to try and take care of them. I'm still going to see what I can harvest from this area, because like I said, the beets and the carrots look like they're not super affected by these types of pests, and I'm hoping when the cold comes we'll see a little bit of a reprieve from all of it. We haven't looked at this section of the berry patch in a few weeks, and I wanted to show you how the St. John's wort is still absolutely thriving. It's having a good time out here. This one blueberry bush that I thought was fully dead is actually putting on new leaves, so that's kind of crazy. It's definitely not super healthy, but it's at least not dead. My garlic chive has fully set seeds now. You can see all those black things. Those are all the seeds. They look just like onion seeds, and I've been like scattering them throughout this area for the spring, but the chives themselves are still healthy and I'm able to harvest from those. Also, interestingly, where was it? I feel like I saw one of these blueberries attempting to put on a flower. Maybe it dropped it because it was not the right time. But this blueberry in particular, it still looks great. This is my best looking blueberry, and you can see all the buds that it's making in preparation for next spring. Draco is dutifully guarding my single kumquat. Hi, baby. Right here. Doesn't appear to be really getting any bigger. And you can also see this area in the winter is shaded for a lot of the day as well by the house. I don't know how much of a problem that's going to be for these specific plants. And you can see the edge right where I have my berry patch is kind of where the edge of the house is. So these are getting so much more sun than these, at least over the winter. The fig here is putting out new leaves because it's been warm for so long after that frost. I am genuinely pretty worried about how confusing this weather must be for the plants, since we did have that frost and now it's warming up again. Like if they think, oh, it's suddenly springtime, and then they go and use all of their stored nutrients to come back up only to get knocked back down again. Alright guys, well that is it from me today. As always, you can catch up with the tours that you might have missed up here, and until next time, I wish you all happy gardening.